roof inspection. Trust me, Greg enjoyed Thanksgiving, but he's in great shape right now. I would say Greg's in the best shape I've seen him since I've known him, and that's been almost 20 years now. Locally owned Storm Restoration Roofing. Greg from Pell City, Andrea, his wife, and he's ready athletically to jump on top of that roof right now and give you a free, no-cost roof inspection. Absolutely free. A-plus rated with the Better Business Bureau, and Greg's relationship with the insurance claims guys, the providers in our area, helps you when it comes to a claim. He does roof replacements. He does storm damage repairs and everything else. Storm Restoration Roofing, 205-542-3531 for that free no-cost roof inspection, and also Greg from Pell City on Facebook. And also our friends at Rodney Scott. Just a chef's kiss to the spatchcock turkey. I had it several times over the weekend. It was delicious every time, from putting it on the plate day after Thanksgiving to sandwiches all weekend. So good.
Yeah, look, and again, coming up for the holidays, you can do spatchcock turkeys. We'll have more information on that. But if you're just looking for a great lunch or dinner, stop in, enjoy Rodney Scott's. There's a location in Homewood. There's one in Trussville. That pit cook barbecue, the great sauces from Rodney Scott's. Support local this holiday season. Rodney Scott's Barbecue, locally owned and operated. Gift cards, great stocking stuffer. You can get those right now. Go to RodneyScottsBBQ.com or get in for lunch. Fresh off the Territorial Cup. Boy, it did not disappoint. Game was over before it was even kicked. Each and every week, Unlocked with Fox's Brock Huard. I'm Lance Taylor from the next round. It is brought to you by our friends at mybookie.ag. They will double that initial deposit. Getting ready for, well, college football playoffs, player props, sides, totals. They got it all available. All you got to do is put in that code next round, and they will double your initial deposit at mybookie.ag. Brock, I hope Thanksgiving was better than the Territorial Cup. Yeah, you're muted there. I don't see any green light on the...
Oh, there we go. There we go. I figured it out, man. I'm so savvy. I was able to hit that unmute button. Thanksgiviving was good. It was weird, man. My turkey identified as bacon wrap filet mignon roast this year. It was amazing. I was really thankful for that re-identification. And daughter was home, some homemade mac and cheese, a lot of good food, and yeah, a funny little aside, we were sitting in our production meeting the night before the Territorial Cup, and one of our production assistants said, hey, we did that cool thing for the Houston-Kansas State game where you had the anatomy of an upset, and you gave us like 3 things to think about. Do you think you can give me like 3 things, and I'll make a little grade sheet? And I was like, no, I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think there's anatomy of an upset. I think we got a cadaver. This is going to be really, really hard for this Arizona team that's down captain, lineman. Like, they're just so beaten up. And an ASU team that is just playing some great football. Unfortunately lost one of their best players, their receiver, that's gonna hurt them this weekend, and would really hurt them if and when into a playoff game. But yeah, that was not a competitive affair in Tucson.
Hey, not that we'll spend a lot of time on this game, but I do want to know, because we were going through, the different Power 4 conferences, who the coach of the year is. And to me, Kenny Dillingham is that guy in the Big 12. And they've won 5 consecutive games, and now they are favored to not only beat Iowa State, but to go on and get a spot in the college football playoff. So I think he is your guy. What is Dillingham like? Because, I think everybody's lasting impression is what you saw with the second left against BYU.
Yep, or the viral moment in the press conference that he kind of had to apologize for with the kicker. And if you can kick, email me and crying. He's an emotional guy. I mean, he's 34, Lance. It was one of the first times in my life. I know I'm getting older. I know I got to use my readers. I know, my body can't do what it used to do energy-wise. I mean, I feel 48. I'm not 68. I'm not, 78. But I'm definitely 48. But it was we were sitting in the meeting. I looked at him and I was like, "How old are you again?" He's 34. Like, you're 34. He is so freaking young, but he's been around good people. Mike Norvell, I think, was a really good influence. I think Mario Cristobal, he's taken pieces of each of the guys he's been with. And I'll say this, Lance, I was just saying this on a show down in Arizona after my show ended, and I've got to think about it because Sark is the counter to it, because Sark is calling plays and is the head coach and is doing a phenomenal job. But Lincoln Riley, Jed Fish, Neil Brown, this day and age of being able to be the play caller and the head coach, I think it's coming to an end at the college level. And Kenny Dillingham basically said as much. We asked him, I said, it's not many times young whippersnapper coordinators like you who are really inventive and have made your chops and have just ascended this mountain so quickly. It's not many times they hand over the call sheet, right? It's like a drug, and they're really good at it. And the highs that come from calling a great game and setting your team up for success, as he did at Memphis and as he did at Oregon, even as he did at the end of last year when he took it over on a really bad team, and you could see them like, ooh, yeah, he knows what he's doing. And he just point blanks like, you can't do it. Like, you can't do it. To raise money, to deal with boosters, to recruit, to recruit your own team, all the things you got to do on game day, got to manage an offense and a defense and special teams. Like, you can't do it. And kudos to him to hand that over to Marcus Arroyo, make the right hire. Guy's phenomenal. Huard, the D coordinator, is phenomenal. And because of it, they're 10-2, the hottest team in the Big 12. Got a great shot to go to the playoff.
Boy, what you just said is a scary proposition for Florida State and Mike Norvell going out and hiring Gus Malzahn, because I don't see any upside there. That's a different story. I wanted to ask you about Cam Scatterbo, though. Will he play in the NFL, though? It's hard to imagine, but you think he will?
Oh, 100%. Now, if you asked me this one calendar year ago, I would say no. Nope, he's probably going to run 4.65, kind of be a little higher body fat, kind of enjoying probably the scene there on whatever the street is in Tempe. That's a real popular one.
Fun place.
Front Street or whatever it is, but Main Street. But, Kenny Dillingham looked at him point blank this offseason and said, do you want to play in the league? And this is Kenny Dillingham, and I appreciate it in our production meeting. I appreciate coaches like this, because he's just like, hey, Scatterbo, you want to play in the league? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, then you need to lose a lot of body fat and you need to get faster, because your game, even though it was productive the year before and super productive at Sacramento State, is not going to translate to the NFL if you run 4.65. You run in the low 4.5s, you cut 7-8% body fat, 10, 12 pounds. And all of a sudden, these 5 and 10 yard runs become 15 and 20 yard runs at this level. And you catch it the way you do, and you block the way you do, and you have elevated this whole program the way you have. You will absolutely find a home in the NFL.
Okay, so here's what it comes down to for the college football playoff. And we've still got conference championship games to go. But here's what it looks like. And you tell me where you are and what you would do with these certain teams. So 3 3-loss SEC teams in Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina. Head-to-head, South Carolina has lost to both Alabama and Ole Miss. If SMU beats Clemson, it's going to come down to one of those 3 teams. I think Miami is done. I don't know if you agree with that.
I would agree with that. They had so many close games, many games they pulled out, so many games or scoring margins, so many defensive lapses and woes and statistical issues. So, yeah, I think they're done.
If Clemson beats SMU, it gets more complicated, because then you have an 11-2 SMU team that, if they didn't make the college football playoff, would be punished for going to their conference championship game. Now, I don't know how you feel. I do believe that Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Alabama are all better than SMU. So it comes down to deserving, best team, whatever the criteria is going to be for this committee. But let's just go with the first one. Clemson or SMU beats Clemson. It comes down to one of those 3 teams: Alabama, South Carolina, or Ole Miss. Alabama and Ole Miss did not play each other. Alabama does have 3 top 25 wins. Ole Miss has got 2. Who do you put in?
Alabama. Yeah, I think Alabama gets in that scenario. Tell me again, SMU's best win if they lose to Clemson.
Well, here's what's going to happen. I believe that the committee is going to slide Louisville into the top 25 tomorrow, and that is SMU's best win. And I think they're just going to have that card to see how the weekend plays out.
Yep. Yep, I would agree. That would be their only ranked win. Is that what you're
That would
telling
be
me?
the only ranked win for SMU.
Yeah, that'd be a problem. This isn't a 13-0 Florida State team that's getting screwed, right? This is if they lose a championship game in a conference that has been very average, and their best win on the year would be a Louisville. Yeah, I think they probably get passed over by an Ole Miss or an Alabama.
Yeah, I
And if
think
I'm in that
it's,
committee, yep.
yeah, I think it's Alabama too, Brock. I just don't know how you look at SMU. And look, it's been a tremendous first year. Rhett Latchley, by the way, our ACC Coach of the Year, regardless of what happens here. For them to be undefeated in conference play, to have an opportunity to win this game and go, there are so many people that are saying two things. SMU with a loss is still in, and the at-large team they believe will get in is South Carolina. Head-to-head's got to mean something, right?
It does, and I get it. South Carolina's playing great, right? What have they won? 6 in a row here down the stretch, and obviously the win over Clemson is a big feather in their cap. And in some of their numbers and metrics here, like certainly over these 6 weeks have been awesome. But it is also in totality, right? It is not and should not be a 6-win season. I don't, what you've done the last 6 weeks. I don't think this is the NCAA tournament in that way, where they kind of wait. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that committee will have a different opinion. Maybe the voices in there will be really, really strong and say, no, 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 no. The way that they're playing right now, and if they were to match up right now, you tell me, Mr. Line Maker, if South Carolina and Alabama lined up on a neutral field, what would the line be?
Alabama would be a 5.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
I said Alabama in Dallas against SMU, still a 7-point favorite.
And I think they played head to head. I mean, I think they went, I think that matters, right? Those 60 minutes do matter.
It does. Now, that was a weird game. I don't know where you were. You might have been in Boulder.
It was a tight game.
Might have been in Ames.
Really tight game.
Well, Alabama had control of the game until the final 2.5 minutes of the first half, and then everything came off the rails. And really, to me, that was the turning point of South Carolina's season. And I do think South Carolina is really, really good. But it makes it, to me, so easy for the committee that if you've got these three teams bottlenecked up, and South Carolina has lost to both Alabama and Ole Miss, who didn't play each other, it's easy to put them at the back of the pack and say head-to-head matters in this situation, and then you choose from Alabama or Ole Miss.
Yep. Did I see Lane doing some politicking on Twitter? Did I see him posting some stuff?
Yeah. He's poor-mouthing, this is big old Bama. I guess he just thinks it's Alabama and Ole Miss. But it's Big Bama. They get the benefit of the doubt all the time. And there's something to that, too. Ryan Brown brought this up on the show earlier. And, these are massive contracts, television contracts. And the advertisers are spending a fortune. You got to have the eyeballs to bring in. You're already going to have Arizona State or Iowa State in this. You've got a Boise State more than likely is going to be in this. You've got Indiana in this thing. You've got to have some brand names, right?
Yeah, you do. And don't sleep on UNLV, by the way. And that's what we're going to be. I'll be in Boise Friday night and just kind of starting some cursory work and looking at their first game that they played against each other, where Genty had to score late in that game in Vegas. UNLV's got some salty dudes now. That front seven, their ends, their linebacker, their safety. Remember Catalon from Arkansas way back when? Felt like he played 15 years ago.
So that Friday night game, I played UNLV earlier this year against Boise. I like UNLV in this game too. And I said earlier today on the show that I thought the biggest loser over the Thanksgiving weekend was Tulane. Tulane handles Memphis at home, and then they beat Army. If Boise was to go down, Tulane would have been in this field. Tulane was playing great football up until that game.
Instead, it's going to be and could be UNLV.
Yeah.
Right? It could be the winner of that game. So kind of to further Ryan's point with an Iowa State and Arizona State and Indiana, UNLV possibly. And I don't know, if Mr. Hancock in that room, I remember sitting in that room. I remember walking through all of it, and it is a thoughtful process. I don't think he slips in, hey, boys, television is weighed in here. Television's on line 2. Disney's on line 3. I don't think that's necessarily what it is. Maybe there is a little bit of a bias, but bottom line, when Alabama plays to their ceiling, when Milroe doesn't turn it over, when he runs with the football, which I think they could even do more of. And I've kind of banged that drum with you all season long. Knock it off, man. Stop trying to make him process and play between the tackles. That's not what he is best at. Just throw caution to the wind and let that guy run it 15 or 20 times. They're a different and difficult animal. So I think they were honestly the biggest beneficiary. If Tulane was the biggest loser of the weekend, I think with everything and all the dominoes that fell, the folks down in Tuscaloosa were having to do some backflips.
Hey, one more point on campaigning to get into this 12-team playoff. SMU's got deep pockets. They went to the ACC and said, let us in. We don't need any money. I am not challenging the integrity of the committee. I really haven't looked at who's on this committee. I know Ward Manuel's heading it up, but I don't know the other bodies involved. I am challenging the integrity of just the human soul and what we are at our fiber. Can you imagine if a SMU had money together and went to a committee member and said, hey, look, you need to be a hung juror. Like, it's going to come down to Alabama or SMU, but we'll give you $1 million to make sure we get in this. I know that sounds crazy, but crazier things have happened. We've had head coaches bury players' deaths and blame it on drugs, and teams have gone on death penalties because of stuff like this. SMU probably not the one that wants to do it based on the fact that they were the death penalty team that I talk about back in the 80s. But, somebody did point out today earlier, like, these coaches that are on this committee, they weren't making $8 million back in the day.
No. Mike Riley, one of my buddies who's on it. I don't think Mike riding his bike down in Corvallis really cares or would have any need or want to for a little extra cash. Weren't we supposed to stop with all this, by the way? With the expansion from 4 to 12, weren't some of these agenda items, some of these pieces of discourse, weren't they supposed to go away? Wasn't this supposed to be simplified, Mr. Lance?
Yeah, it wasn't.
And it feels...
You know what's weird? Your boy Collette was on here earlier, and he said, look, when it gets down to it, there was a difference last year with Georgia being on the outside. Georgia could have won the national championship. He's like, I don't believe these teams could win the national championship. I disagree. I think if Ole Miss, Alabama, or South Carolina got in this, I don't see a clear-cut favorite. Week in, week out, we are seeing teams like Ohio State this past weekend losing at home to Michigan. So I just don't think there's a clear-cut favorite. Do I think SMU can win it? Absolutely not. But I think those other three teams in the SEC could definitely make a run. I mean, you've seen Ole Miss at their best, what they did to Georgia. Alabama at their best, what they did in Baton Rouge to LSU. Those are teams that can win 2 or 3 games and win a national championship.
I don't think the stage nor the rosters would be that overwhelming. Certainly Oregon put a final bow on their season, and when they play at home, I think it would be very, very, very challenging for anybody to go to Autzen Stadium and win. But heck, Ohio State was right there. If Will Howard doesn't slide with 5 seconds to go and doesn't have recognition there, then that game's going to go to overtime more than likely, and who knows? So, yeah, it is a wide open. Do I see Arizona State winning those 3 games, SMU winning 3 games, Boise State winning 3 games? No. But I cannot disagree with some of the strength of that Alabama, that Ole Miss, and as red hot, certainly as South Carolina's playing right now.
Okay, this is very random, and this is unlike what Fox's Brock Huard. It is brought to you by mybookie.ag. Put in that code, promo code next round. They're going to double the initial deposit. Monday Night Football tonight, which we will get to in a little bit. Player props, sides, totals. They got everything available. Mybookie.ag. Put in the player code or the code next round, and they will double the initial deposit. So I'm randomly at a Cheesecake Factory on Friday night, and I'm sitting at the bar. Oh, it's a massive menu, and
it's overwhelming.
And I was waiting for girlfriend, and it was the easiest place to be in the mall we call the Summit up here. It was just a place I could post up and wait on her. So I'm watching Georgia Tech and Georgia unfold, and such an exciting game. But our overtime format, we base this on Texas A&M and LSU, one game. It was much like the non-pass interference call against the Rams in the 2018 NFC Championship game. The next year, we had review on pass interference. It lasted 1 year. Can we not say that this overtime format is not right for college football? Here's the way I would do it, Brock. You tell me a way you would do it. And look, it was super exciting going to 8 overtimes, but there was no need. I think you start out, each team gets the ball in the 25. You immediately go for 2 each possession. And I don't think it goes more than 2 or 3 overtimes.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. That just can't happen. And all the timeouts. We were in our production meeting. What was it? I think at the start of the 7th or 8th overtime, it had been 36 minutes.
That is insane.
This is just ridiculous. And you're walking one end to the other. And, Kirby's smart, and he's taking a timeout on just about every single one of them and making them kind of burn through 2-point plays and pressurizing each and every one of those moments. But yeah, we had finished our production meeting in our hotel there in Tucson, and it was the same thing. I think that was the most common refrain. This doesn't fly. Like, this doesn't feel right. This just is, whatever way this is going to end, this just does not feel like a football game, and certainly doesn't feel like necessarily the best team won versus, yeah, I think you would get to a resolution much, much quicker, to your point right there. Hell, why not even, is the NFL overtime rule that bad? Right?
The only thing
could they not do that? Is player safety with the clock running now that the way it does? Is that not something that we can incorporate back in the old rules where the clock stopped and the games were entirely, because of that, so very different? Now the clock runs in college football until the final 2 minutes. Like, couldn't we do the NFL rule?
The only thing I don't like about the NFL rule is I go back to week 1, Rams battle back and they tie Detroit up and it goes to a coin toss and Detroit gets, they win the coin toss, they take the ball, which you always do, and they go down and score a touchdown and game's over. I mean, that's my only problem with that. I do think there's something about each getting the ball on the 25. Like, I know the college football always tries to kind of model or go towards the NFL model, but I think the NFL, if you cut out the 2-point conversion back and forth in the third overtime, could maybe take something from the college game.
They could, but if player safety is such a big deal at the NFL level, and they play with like 48 guys, on the roster on a Sunday, obviously you've got double that on a college roster, like the player safety thing, and that's why, right, they went to these 2 points. They didn't want the 7 overtimes all starting at the 25 and all these extra plays and everything else. I don't know, man. It just, it was a little. It was a little unsavory for as amazing as that game was. And you do. I mean, you're just kind of holding your breath with each one of these plays. And if Haynes King would have just handed the ball on the fly sweep, you're leaving that game going, if we would have only, if we would have only, if we would have only, in any of these occasions, could have had just an absolutely monumental win for them.
Not a great game that you called the Territorial Cup again. So I don't know how many people were watching at the end, but it was a similar ending to what you got in Columbus, and I'm talking about the flag planting. Now, it was with like a plastic, I don't even know what was going on there, and I don't know how much Arizona wants to protect their A out there on the middle of the field. The Michigan-Ohio State was a complete debacle where the first time ever I've seen pepper spray involved in a college football game at midfield. But what do you do about this flag planting? Because, I brought this up with Klatt. Like, if I'm an Ohio State guy, I know I just got my ass beat on the field, but if a guy's trying to plant his flag in the middle of my field, I'm going to do something about it. And so you've got to
you're going to stand your ground and say, absolutely not. Yeah. Over my dead body, are you going to come do this? Because it's not just you're doing that to me. You're now trying to embarrass my fan base in our grand cathedral. And you know what? You beat my tail. You beat me on the field, right? And kudos to Sarkisian. Right, he was the one that stopped all of this madness because it was going on everywhere across college football, and that's who it takes. It takes the head coach, right? It takes that guy to grab his guys and say, "No, we will celebrate in that locker room. We will party in that locker room. We will have a blast." But you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that because there's no ups. There's just no. It's a no-win situation. So either the head coach has got to handle it, and he's got to be fined if he doesn't, or the commissioner of the conference got to step in and say, hey, listen, if you guys do this, the players that we see are going to be suspended for the next game. Period. End of line. Like, you have to make it so penal that they cannot do it.
Yeah, and I can't believe it was like almost like behind the scenes, everybody playing in these rivalry games were told, hey, look, plant a flag, because I've never seen it done this many times.
No. Nope. And when Baker didn't, right, it was just kind of him himself. He's kind of waving it, whatever. And it was kind of fun back then. This wasn't fun. This is like, I don't know, it feels kind of demeaning. And like I said, it's not only to me then you've crossed the line, like, okay, player to player, you don't want to have class. You want to do that. No class, no character, fine. But you're doing this in my building, and my 100,000 fans are here, and they're salty, and they're pissed, and they're irritated, and they want to fire Ryan Day. And now you want to, kind of throw, salt to the wound. I honestly, it's either going to take the head coach on that team, opposing team, winning team's got to handle that, like Sark did, or B, you make it so, honestly, you make the discipline so severe that anybody we see involved in something like that will be suspended for the next game. I don't see any other way around it.
So is the best 6-loss team in college football USC? I mean, another one that it comes down to the fourth quarter, and they had every opportunity in the late 2 pick sixes. I thought there were some bad calls, and this is just sour grapes. But they've now lost 11 of 19 games. I don't get what's going on. I know it seemed, to me watching this team, I thought they were a better overall team. I think with Caleb Williams, they're undefeated right now, which is kind of crazy, but I mean, somebody's got to be accountable, and they have lost 11 of 19, and they've been in these games in the fourth quarter, and they just get away from them. I mean, what do you think the future is for Lincoln Riley?
Yeah, I think there's a few things involved there. All 6 were one-score losses. Is that right? I didn't see the final. Final score?
It's 49-35, and it was 2 red zone picks. One was taking 100 yards back. One was taking 99 yards back.
Yeah, so it's a touchdown with 3 minutes to go, and they're driving, and unfortunately, it takes a little bit of risk there, and Hudson falls down, and the rest is history. So basically, you've got 6 games that have all been decided by truly, and not every team can say this, by the way. The 3-loss Alabama can't say it after the embarrassment in Norman, Oklahoma, but they could legitimately say in every one of these games, there's 2 or 3 plays that are the difference between us going and playing in the playoff and us 6-6 and left searching for answers. I'll go back to what I said earlier about these head coaches calling plays. There's a reason Ryan Day brought in Chip Kelly. Didn't work in the end. Obviously, he loses to Michigan for a 4th straight time. But Ryan Day realized, as the figurehead, as the head coach at a school like this, all of the responsibilities that fall on my desk, and there were a lot in 1996 for Jim Lambright, it is 100-fold for these guys today. And it is the constant recruitment, the recruitment outside, the recruitment in the portal, the recruitment of your own players. It is the constant raising of money with your collectives in order to go into that portal and be able to do something to create a difference. And then the game management that you've got to, with these players that you're trying to retain on your roster, you've got to have relationship with. The old Mike Leach days of being able to just know all your offensive players and coach your offensive guys and rely on your defense to coach your defensive guys. For player retainment, I don't think that is a way to do it. So, I don't know if Lincoln Riley will ever be able to, to hand that over, because it's one of his great strengths. I think he's one of the great play designers and play callers in all of college football this century. So I think, all of those things exist. And ultimately, your talent acquisition and your player retention is a big, big, big part of it.
It is Unlocked with Fox's Brock Huard, brought to you by mybookie.ag. Again, put in that code next round. All caps are going to double the initial deposit. I brought this up earlier, too. Cam Ward, if he, and I think I used the example, if he was playing at Alabama as good as Milroe has been on his highs, Cam Ward's consistently very, very, very good. I think Alabama is probably 11-1, 10-2 worst case. USC with Cam Ward, I think, is undefeated. And my point here is not USC. It's to any program out there. And I know you can't necessarily identify how good the guy is going to be, but I think there was enough sample size on Cam Ward to know he was a special player. And if it's the difference in 6-6 and going to some rat bowl, or 11-1 and getting to a college football playoff with the millions and millions and millions of dollars involved, I just don't understand why some of these guys aren't going out and really trying to track these guys.
Yeah, I think that is a fair assessment. I think you also make some assumptions that USC has a collective and has those kind of monies to go and get that done. And I don't know if that is always, Lance, a really fair assumption. I do think that this, new revenue share and everybody have a fairly level playing field of $21 million or so, or what that is, and that can move up or down a little bit based on different programs and otherwise. It's going to be fascinating to see. So in your case, you're saying, okay, if you got $21 million here and we got to spread around the whole athletic department, you're saying, man, if you got the right guy, we got to pay him $10 or $12 million.
I mean, maybe.
What happens if it's the wrong guy?
That's the
what
problem.
What happens if, which
it's
we
Kirk
see all
Cousins,
the time,
who we'll
as
get
we
to
try
in a little
draft these NFL first-round QBs, and that's the wrong guy. You want to talk about sabotaging your entire athletic department, not just your football team in your locker room. They're in too, is some of the danger and some of the risk associated with that.
Okay, so to me, there are 2 guys that potentially will be out there this year. I don't think Quinn Ewers, even if Texas wins the national championship, is going to be back. I think it's either going to be the NFL or it's the transfer portal. I think Jalen Milroe, it's either the NFL or it's the transfer portal. Those are two guys that can make a lot of money in today's NIL going elsewhere. And both of those guys, now, as soon as I say this,
I don't know if I would pull the
back.
trigger. I don't know if I could do that. I don't. If I were in charge and the consultant at USC and says, okay, because my Ava kind of showed some things here. Like, is Quinn Ewers that big of an upgrade? Quinn Ewers is hurt every year. Is Jalen Milroe that big of an upgrade? I don't know if the guy can, see the field and
it's too
some
inconsistent.
Of these games
yeah, those are bad examples.
Are just that atrocious.
Bad examples. Give me a better example, Brock. I lean on you here.
I mean, it's hard, right? And no, I get where you're coming from, but I think it is. I think it is challenging to do this exercise. I mean, did you know that Rourke was going to be that good at Indiana, the MAC Player of the Year?
No, and I thought Grayson McCall would be better at NC State.
Yep. So this is just like you spend all this time in the colleges, don't have, even though some of them have hired GMs, put together departments trying to mirror what's going on in the NFL, but they don't have the resources. They don't have scouts upon scouts. They don't have the institutional knowledge. They can't go. They don't have a combine. They don't have interviews. They don't have this. Like, it's got to happen like that. And oh, by the way, this portal opens like when? This weekend? And then it is a madhouse. And there are no rules and there are no regulations and this whole dating process and interview process, it's just chaos, man. It is absolute, for those involved in it, it's absolute chaos. I think it's easy to sit in the seat that you do and I do and say, well, after the fact, if you would have done this, but in the midst of the storm, the fecal blizzard that is the timing of this portal right now with all that's going on, it's just college football has got to get some things figured out.
Yeah, they do. And like this general manager position is becoming increasingly important. I know Andrew Luck over the weekend took that over at Stanford. But, I mean, these guys, that seems like a pain in the ass job.
Right, you think?
Yeah, and that's why, like Andrew Luck, I know he might want to be back involved in the game. I think he's actually better than some of the quarterbacks that played yesterday on Sunday, probably still. So if you want to be back involved in the game, hey, start working out and get back out there. I don't know why you would want this job.
And we were bouncing this around in our little meeting room and after the game, like, man, I wonder if this college game, with all of this demand and just this craziness, until hopefully there's some guardrails put in, that if the Kenny Dillingham, and we'll see in the hiring process, right? We got a lot of jobs, Carolina and West Virginia, and a bunch of jobs going to come open, and other ones are going to come open. And I know there's a bunch outside the Power Four that are open. You just wonder, like, man, would we be better off hiring the 30-something that just has energy for days? The Dan Lannings that seemingly are like Donald Trump and need 2 hours of sleep somehow, some way, and they just work and they never tire. And Kenny Dillingham at 34, who just works and he never tires. I just wonder if in this day and age, man, you need so much energy to try to do that job well.
Look, I know he was a one in a million, but Nick Saban had that energy in his 70s. Kirk Cignetti's got that energy at 62. So I see what you're saying, but there are other examples on the other side of that.
Yep. There are, and Donald, I mean, yes, we're not a political show, but to compare the energy of those two one-time candidates, like Trump would go city to city and not sleep. I mean, just how I was hanging out with my 78-year-old in-laws that live in Phoenix after the Territorial Cup. And the energy level of that guy versus a typical 78-year-old, very, very, very different.
Hey, not to get political, I would pardon you at any point, though, Brock. I would pardon you at any point.
Well, how did you do this weekend?
Oh, not good.
Doggone it. Every time I say I'm going to ask Lance before 31 minutes into the show, how did we do?
It was not a good weekend. And typically, Thanksgiving weekends aren't. I can't win. More specifically on a Thanksgiving, and it got off to a good start. I got a backdoor with the Bears, and then it completely fell apart. And Friday was very average, and Saturday just ended up being a disaster. And then yesterday, I was 2-3, and two of my losses you were watching, which we'll get to the NFL here in a second. Aaron Rodgers, they didn't score the final 40 minutes of the game. That pick six. Yep. I mean, that was, boy, he was rumbling too, right?
Superhuman. 17.5 miles an hour for a 320-pound man. It's not human.
And he was unblockable yesterday. And then on the other side, Kirk Cousins, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4, including a pick 6. That cost me. So we'll get to that in a second. It is Unlocked with Fox's Brock Huard, always brought to you by our title sponsor, mybookie.ag. They will double that initial deposit when you put in that code word next round. I'm going to give you something on the other side. I think we have tonight in Cleveland, in Denver, a first in NFL history. We will get to it on the other side, right here on Unlocked with Fox's Brock Huard.
Take the next round anywhere you go with official Next Round gear. Buy yours today at nextround.store.
Hey, this is Matt Roth, the franchisee of Walk On Sports Bistro in Birmingham. With the kickoff of football season, come visit us at one of our 3 locations, Stadium Trace, Greystone, or Trussville. Come enjoy our scratch kitchen menu while watching one of our 80 TVs. Whether you're looking for a pre- or post-game celebration, game day, or date night, we've got you covered. It's all about the win at Walk On Sports Bistro. Walk On, where everybody needs a little playing time.
If renting is putting a dent in your bank account, here's your sign from the universe that it's time to buy a new home. And who better to help you through the ins and outs of home buying than our friends at Mortgage Right. With Mortgage Right, you don't have to worry about becoming a short-notice mortgage expert because they do all the heavy lifting for you. They're trusted mortgage professionals, and they'll help you choose the right mortgage option and stand by your side every step of the way. Visit mortgageright.com/TNR to buy before renting runs you dry. That's mortgageright.com/TNR. NMLS 2239, Equal Housing Lender. Storm season is here. Make sure you have a plan of action in place right now. Greg from Pell City and Storm Restoration Roofing should be your first call when storms hit. Insurance companies love working with Storm Restoration Roofing because of Greg Nelson's name and reputation in the industry. When storms hit, call Greg Nelson. He's local, 205-542-3531. He's the home of the free no-cost roof inspection. Greg from Pell City on Facebook, 205-542-3531. It's Storm Restoration Roofing. From the creators of The Next Round comes 2 new sites, covercrimson.com and thebarnauburn.com. 2 team sites with the same excitement and information-driven content that you get every day on The Next Round. Live daily shows, recorded shows, free of charge, plus premium content with insider information starting at just $1. And it's the perfect gift for the Alabama or Auburn fan in your family. Covercrimson.com or thebarnauburn.com. Sign up today.
This hour of The Next Round is presented by the Birmingham Racecourse Casino, now featuring 7 days of giveaways with your chance to win a share of up to $125,000. The more you visit the Birmingham Racecourse Casino, the more chances you have to win.
In some places, football is a sport. In Alabama, it's a fine art. New Life Art is proud to announce Daniel A. Moore's upcoming painting, Deuces Wild. This season, Bama is blessed with a pair of very talented deuces. The pair played a huge role on both sides of the ball in the Tide's amazing 41-34 victory over number 2 Georgia. Deuces Wild will portray the unbelievable game-winning 75-yard touchdown catch by deuce number 1, Ryan Williams, late in the 4th quarter. The Dogs' last chance drive was stopped by deuce number 2, Sabian Brown, as he made the game-saving interception in the end zone, which will be celebrated by a small artist's remark in the bottom margin of each print. Go to danielmooreart.com to see the artist's preliminary sketch and take advantage of special pre-publication pricing for Deuces Wild. Also available, The Legend, Daniel Moore's final tribute to Coach Nick Saban. Order now at danielmooreart.com.
Happy football season. At The Next Round, we strive to make our loyal listeners feel like they're a part of the action all season long. My name is Emily Grace McWhorter, and I do that by bringing you along for any given Saturday in Auburn or Tuscaloosa. From pregame warm-ups, touchdowns that make you feel a part of the play, and everything in between, our goal is to make you feel like you're inside Bryant Denny or Jordan Hare. Follow along on our social media at Next Round Live on Instagram, X, and Facebook. Also, check out thebarnauburn.com and covercrimson.com while you're at it. Here's to Fall Saturdays.
Thanksgiving is here, and let the New York Butcher Shop be the place to get all of your holiday meal items. Their premium turkeys are fresh, free-range, and hormone-free. The New York Butcher Shop also has a wide selection of chef-prepared side items to help save you time in the kitchen. Pick up a bottle of wine, and your meal will be complete. Turkeys are selling fast, so place your order today. 2 locations to serve you, in Cahaba Heights and on Highway 119 in Greystone. The New York Butcher Shop. Rare quality, well-done service.
We talk about all the biggest games every Monday at 10:30 with Fox Sports analyst Joel Klatt. Presented by MyBookie.ag, promo code NEXTROUND. If it is meaningful at all in college football, we cover it Mondays with Joel Klatt, presented by MyBookie.ag on the Next Round.
So as we record this, we will not get a snow game tonight. I love sitting on the couch, blanket on me, as soft as I am, with a nice hoodie on from Roback, and just staring at the TV and watching a blizzard like I did last night with San Francisco Buffalo. We won't get that tonight, but I think we are going to get a first in the history of the NFL, Brock. And I could give you, I literally could lock you in a room for a month, and I don't know if you could figure this out.
Probably not.
It is Birmingham on Birmingham with Jameis Winston from the Browns taking on Bo Nix from the Denver Broncos.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy, isn't it?
I think I could have made, I think I might have. Different high schools, though, right?
Yeah. Different high schools.
Yeah.
I forgot. Hey, Scotty, where did Jameis play? Hueytown?
Hueytown.
Yeah, Hueytown and Pinson.
That's right. Right.
Jameis.
Is the town divided? Is there
I don't think there's a rivalry. There's not a rivalry there at all right now. The town is, Jameis was a Florida State guy. Bo was a Auburn guy for a minute, then an Oregon guy. This Denver team, though, playing really good football. Cleveland, 3-8, not a lot to play for. But Denver, they can match last year's win total with a win tonight at home as a 6-point favorite. Sean Payton going against his former quarterback, or at least a little bit of that, and Jameis Winston, and obviously Bo Nix playing at a high level. Do you think this Denver team can make any noise if they get to the postseason?
Well, they play really good defense. So, I just got done making the case that maybe the college game takes these younger, just hyperactive, unbelievable energy guys. And I wonder if the NFL is kind of inverse. We've talked about this a bunch over the course of the season. It feels like at times the two sports have flipped. That this college game that used to have the heavy hitters, that used to have a playing field that wasn't necessarily level, and you kind of knew Alabama and Ohio State and the teams at the very top are going to be there every year. And this year, man, it's just been a wild ride, and it's going to end in a playoff that's going to have a bunch of new faces at the party. And the NFL is the other way. We're like Buffalo once again expressed themselves last night already league champs or division champs, and Detroit on their way to doing the same, and Philly on the way to doing their same, and that those teams are just, maybe Pittsburgh gets thrown in there too, or just feel like, golly, they could be a cut above everybody else. Kansas City obviously got just the one blemish. Denver is pretty feisty, man. And if the college game's kind of young and energetic and dynamic, well, guess what? Sean Payton and Andy Reid and some of the old heads are showing you that nope, some of that wisdom still pays. So Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel, kind of take your pick, because there's going to be a bunch of jobs that maybe weren't around for you last year with, well, we need these young, inventive, whippersnapper, offensive, defensive minds. No, maybe the tried and true know how to coach them up, know the details, know the game planning, the game management. Maybe that does come into play. And Sean Payton's doing a pretty good job with a pretty veteran team, a good offensive line, a Bo Nix that's finding himself, and a defense that's really one of the 5 best in the league. So they're where they're at because their defense has played really well, Lance. And this, they're not running it, kind of like my Seahawks aren't running it, but they're playing elite defense. And if you do it week after week after week after week, well, guess what? You're 7-5 and give yourself an opportunity to make some noise.
Back to the snow game. Best snow game on Saturday, East Lansing, Michigan State hosting Rutgers. Best snow game last night, Buffalo hosting San Francisco. You grew up in Washington. You played with the Seahawks. Yep. How many snow games did you get?
Not many. We had one in Denver when I was with the Colts, and Mike Vanderjagt, that old drunk kicker, made a game-winning kick at the very end of it. That was pretty fun. I think I've told you that story.
No, you haven't. Was he a partier?
No, that's why I think he was also really pissed about that. So, yeah, no, he was not necessarily that. But that snow game, the priest that traveled with us was also a smoker and decided to not go outside and smoke his cigarettes like he normally did, and may or may not have smoked a few of those in the locker room. So when we came in at altitude at halftime, maybe there were some really, really pissed off people at the priest. Because, the locker room.
This is great. So you all walked into a cloud?
Yes.
And there was only one guy that could be guilty, right?
That's exactly right. Like, and who's going to tell the priest he can't, have a couple heaters when he doesn't want to step outside? So that one was quite memorable. But we won it on it. That was a Sunday night game, and won it on a last-second kick. Pretty fun. Played in Pullman in worse than snow. I wish it would have snowed because it was like 12 degrees with frozen ice, and that was just miserable. But yeah, those snow globe games, and it kind of felt that way last night. Damon talks about this, that really obviously, the Tuck rule and everything that came with that win over the Raiders in the playoffs with John Gruden and Tom Brady, and ultimately they go on the run to win the Super Bowl. And he was like, you know what? That one was kind of nice and fun because it wasn't bitter cold. And I think kind of the same thing last night. It wasn't like it was -0. It was kind of that just fluffy low 30s, high 20s, getting a snow globe. And yeah, I'm right there with you, man. That was a blast to watch last night.
It is Unlocked with Fox's Brock Huard. Again, brought to you by our friends at mybookie.ag. Put in that promo code next round. They're going to double your initial deposit from sides, totals, player props. They got it all at mybookie.ag. Now, the Texans, Azeez Al-Shaair, apologized for the hit on Trevor Lawrence. That is one of the most brutal hits you'll see. Couple of things. So your son, Titus, is learning the game, playing at a high level. He'll be a junior next year. Guy that's, has ambition of playing high-level college, possibly the NFL one day. I heard Buddy Ryan this morning talking about teaching these quarterbacks to slide when they're about to be hit is a mistake. Do you agree with this?
So the late Buddy Ryan came out of the heavens and was talking.
Not Buddy.
Not
Buddy. It was Rex. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's fine. If it was Buddy Ryan, I'd want to listen.
Yeah, right. Why not?
Even that much more.
It was Rex Ryan, though.
Fun. Yeah, it is funny. I was thinking about that because what happens when you slide like that, you're totally exposed. So we were playing Arizona State my last year in school. Great opener. We ended up winning on the last second. In the final minute. It was a fun game. And they had a safety named Fright Night Freeman.
Oh, I remember him. He was hell against Nebraska in that upset.
Yes, he was. I think Fright Night may be serving a sentence still. But Fright Night was there.
What was the charge? We got to stop real quick.
What's that?
What was the charge? What is Fright Night in for?
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, don't look it up. I don't think it's a good thing. So maybe I shouldn't have even said that. But
it's never
it just adds
a good
further
thing.
Flavor to the story.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I am looking it up.
No, the dude wanted to just knock you out. And I remember sliding in the game and thankfully getting down just low enough. And I slid, and he literally, I could still close my eyes, Lance, and picture this. He literally slid like right above, like slow-mo, like Matrix, like right above my body. And I think he might have kicked me just as he was in full, like he was going to kill me. Like if I'd have been more upright as Trevor was, I think he'd have punctured both of my lungs.
Do you think career's over?
Into tomorrow.
So possibly career over, right?
I mean, just like so devastating. And because you are like left in that vulnerable spot, and for these defenders, and in real time, and God bless Trevor's teammates to come to his defense right away, because in real time, that looked like the most heinous, awful, horrible hit. But you slow it down, and you see kind of where he's going to hit, and then obviously Trevor's strike zone as he slides just leaves him with his nipples exposed and his head exposed to just absolutely get decimated. So I'd be curious, like if you dive head first, now you run the risk diving head first of that guy lowering right between your scapula. And I don't know, have you ever been hit between your scapula? It hurts and can do serious damage, and you could break your scapula bone and break ribs. And there's not a great solution, but leaving yourself upright like that, I'm with Rex, man. That is a vulnerable spot. And I would certainly at the high school level, I'd say to Titus, get down, man. Just dive head first. Protect yourself, get down as quickly as you can, and you may take a shot, to your shoulder or to your upper back, but it isn't from your neck up where you have serious brain trauma.
I shouldn't have Googled 80 years in prison, and should have been hung in the town square, in my opinion, after reading a little bit of that article.
It's horrible. Yeah. Absolutely horrible.
Kirk Cousins, 4 picks yesterday. The Falcons paid him a ton of money. Our buddy back there, videographer Scott Forster, is a big Falcons fan. In the offseason when that deal went down, I agreed with him. I thought it was a really, really good deal for, a team that seemed like they had everything but quarterback, at least to win the NFC South. And he's just not playing great football. And yesterday it really got magnified against a good Charger defense. But it was pointed out on the broadcast, like, how does a guy with his experience make some of these throws? Like, the pick six was awful. The throw in the back of the end zone that he floated was awful. What do you do if you're Raheem Morris moving forward? Like, Michael Penix is one of these seasoned quarterbacks that played 6 years at the college level. You saw him play a ton for your Washington Huskies. You know, I don't know if he's ready. I don't know how much things, but I do feel like he wouldn't have thrown 4 picks yesterday.
Nope, I think that the locker room is going to tell you some of that for Raheem Morris and some of his experience and being a former head coach and being in LA where he kind of got rehabbed and got to see the thing done at the highest levels. And I think he's probably going to have his ear right to what his leadership council and what his locker room thinks and what they believe. I think when I watch Kirk Cousins and I watch Aaron Rodgers yesterday closely, Lance, what jumps out to me too is we've got to end this conversation that you can play quarterback into your mid 40s. Was not only Tom Brady the GOAT, because of all the Super Bowls and all of the accomplishment and the records. I think he's also the GOAT to be able to play at the age he did. But you know what he did? He was able to kind of play that way for like the majority of his NFL career. He did not rely upon his legs. He did not rely upon having to extend plays and be creative. And Aaron Rodgers did. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was deadly and devastating and a multiple-time MVP because not only was his arm electric, he could get out of stuff and he could run and he would extend plays and then he would do more damage. Kirk Cousins was never a great runner per se, but he could move enough. He was a good enough athlete. He could extend plays. Both of those guys now, if the protection isn't there, they're dead. Like it is just dead on arrival. Unfortunately for Kirk, he plays behind a much better O-line than Aaron Rodgers does. But yeah, I think in that case, you better listen really well to your locker room and to your leadership council. And if that move has to be made, then maybe in the offseason, you get something back for Kirk Cousins. Maybe he's traded somewhere else, or maybe you rehab him enough and hope that he comes out of this thing enough. But to think he's going to be your guy for the next 2-3 years, I think that would be an illusion.
You know, he's 36, and watching Matt Stafford will have a hard time sometimes, whether it's Kyron Williams or Blake Corum, getting the handoff, just completing that outside of the tackle. And so I think there is something to it. Like Stafford was one of those guys too that you're never going to see him, consistently have 7-8 yard scrambles, but he was a guy that was athletic enough that could get himself out of trouble. And I do think it's interesting because I go back to the final play with your Seahawks and the Jets yesterday. That was one of those that Aaron Rodgers would have kept the play alive and would have been able to extend it a little bit, and he's just unable to do that right now. And
Yeah, I know that Russell thought he'd play till he was 45, and when Tom was doing it, I think even didn't Breeze get to 40, 41?
But I mean, he had nothing left with the arm.
Nothing, and obviously Peyton didn't get to 40 in the neck and everything else. Like Father Time eventually wins, and there's a reason through all these years. And you could try to protect him as much as you want, and you could try to call roughing the passer as much as you want, and you could try to. I mean, I think I said this in the Territorial Cup, Lance. Like Noah Fafita, the little tough sucker from Arizona, he took 2 or 3 hits that you don't see an NFL quarterback take the entire season. Like, I mean, he just took an absolute they'd have been personal foul, roughing the passer. These guys get fined tens of thousands of dollars. They know that when they hit the quarterback, and hit them really hard at the NFL level. But you just, with as fast as this game is, as fast as these front sevens are, is just so much better they are athletically than the offensive linemen trying to block them in market after market after market that can't do it. There's not enough offensive linemen, to keep these guys upright enough. They're not going to be. We've got to get rid of that. Oh, he's going to play till he's 45. No, he's not. Aaron Rodgers turns 41 today, and I would think, just looking at his body and his movement, that he would also say, "Yep, I just can't do it the way I know that I once could do it."
Well, for a running back, Christian McCaffrey is getting a little long in the tooth. He's 28 years old, still a great physical shape, but I mean, just unfortunately, this guy, it's injury after injury. Now the PCL, and they're thinking season's going to be in jeopardy. My question to you, he's only played in 4 games this year. He's yet to score a touchdown. One of the reasons this Niners team is struggling so much. If he never gets hurt, I mean, he's one of the greatest of all time, right?
Oh, as far as we talk about dual threat quarterbacks. As far as a dual threat running back, it's him and Marshall Faulk.
Yeah.
Certainly in my lifetime, of guys that truly could go out there and get in the slot and be a 70, 80 reception slot, difference-making receiver, and then simultaneously getting 7 yards behind the quarterback and just being an absolute nightmare to deal with in the run game. So, yeah, that's those are the two that maybe I'm missing somebody. Obviously, Daniel Tomlinson was a pretty dynamic guy. He could catch it out of the backfield. But as far as a real dual threat running back, Yeah, I think Marshall and Marshall was able to stay healthier, and he was able to do it longer, and he did it on real hard turf too, which is a statement to him. And he did it at San Diego State, where half the season at Qualcomm was a baseball field, and he's playing on dirt there as well. So yeah, pretty remarkable durability from a Marshall Faulk. You know what's funny about that too, Lance? When you think about it, look at the body type difference. You know, and I say this to Titus, I say this to these young guys that all want to be buff and they all want to have veins and they all want to be super lean and ripped and all of that. Like, be careful. Be careful. Like, looking back, I wish I would have ate a lot more pizza and maybe drank a beer or two, you know, when I was of age, because I was way too lean and I got hurt all the time. Marshall Faulk was not Christian McCaffrey. You know, he had a higher body fat. He was not nearly as lean and as ripped as McCaffrey is. And you do wonder, like, man, is that sustainable to be just as lean as McCaffrey is, as muscle-bound as he is? Because the Marshall seemed to do it a whole lot longer with just a little more of that dad bod.
Let's close on this just a couple of minutes, but I never believed Pittsburgh could make noise until I saw them. And look, it was against a bad Cincinnati defense yesterday, but Russell Wilson is playing at another level right now. And this guy is undefeated since he's lost one game, I guess, now as Pittsburgh's starting quarterback, but he has been great. And, you know, yesterday was just another example of, like, you saw Russell Wilson at his best in Seattle. Denver got bad Russell Wilson with that contract, and now Pittsburgh's getting really good Russell Wilson. What happened at the Denver stop?
Well, the same thing that's happened with the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers, man. The same thing that's happened when we've tried to watch these coaches be president and GM and head coach. Like, you can't do it. You know, and we said that about Russ. Like, man, shame on you, Denver. Part of the reason the whole thing crashed in Seattle is he wanted the power, right? He wanted the office. He wanted the QB coach in the building. And Denver acquiesced. It was like, absolutely. Yeah, bring Sierra. Bring her entourage. Yeah, bring your coach in. Yeah, you know, you run the show. Yeah, you can have your own office up here. Like, it didn't work. It doesn't work. And when he's gone back to just being quarterback, guess what? It's pretty good. Aaron Rodgers, I should get my buddy here, and we can do this here, and I can have all this power and all this authority. No, checks and balances are pretty good in government. Checks and balances are pretty good in business, and checks and balances in the NFL is a pretty healthy thing. And I don't know if any organization is healthier in that regard than those Pittsburgh Steelers, who seem to win year in and year out.
Okay, one more short one, just because it's in the moment, but Josh Allen built to play football in those conditions. But he is your massive favorite right now to win the MVP. If I asked you next 3 years, you can only have one quarterback, are you taking Josh Allen or are you taking somebody else?
Oh, I'm still taking Mahomes. Yeah, you got to unseat him. That guy still is a witch in his building, is still a wizard on the road, and I would still probably take him. But in a cold weather environment, you saw the difference between Brock Purdy. You wonder why, and everyone laughs at measuring hand size and how big a deal that is at the combine. Last night was a little picture of what a big, strapping, strong-armed, huge-hand dude that could throw missiles in any conditions versus a QB maybe better suited for the West Coast.
You had big hands, right?
Look at those suckers.
Look at that. That is just, it's massive.
10.5.
Oh, wow. What was Penix, like 11?
10 and 7/8. He didn't get quite to 11.
Okay.
So I think I was robbed too. I think I was 10 and 7/8, but
yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, well, that's what happens.
What are you? 9.5? 10?
We measured it. We were at some combine this year. It wasn't nearly that big though. He is Brock Huard from Fox. It is Unlocked. It is brought to you by mybookie.ag. You've got time, Browns, Broncos, sides, totals, player props. They've got it all. Put in that promo code next round. They will double your initial deposit at mybookie.ag. Always great stuff, my friend. Enjoy the Mountain West Conference Championship. UNLV and Boise. Brock will be on the call. More next week. Have a great week.
See you, buddy.